Will he or won't he run for Attorney General? Let's get dialed in. Hello and welcome to Texas Talkin, the only show where the filter is broken, the humor is dry, and the commentary is hotter than a pistol. I'm your host, Shiloh Platts, equal parts cowboy logic and smartassery, donning a legendary cowboy hat that makes leftists oddly uncomfortable. Tonight, we're taking a closer look at a man who walked out of the courtroom, kicked open the doors at the Texas Capitol, and said, "All right, scoot over. The adults are here now." Yes, I'm talking about Texas State Representative Mitch Little, the lawyer, the bulldog, the constitutional flamethrower, who somehow wound up in the same house as Dade Phelan. Now, Mitch didn't run for office because he needed the job. No, sir. He has a perfectly good job defending innocent Texans from the very same kind of political lawfare that makes banana republics blush. Remember when they came after Ken Paxton with that phony impeachment circus? Guess who had a front row seat and a warhammer? That's right, Mitch Little. And after exposing the trial for the political theater that it was, he did something unthinkable in Austin. He ran for office and told the truth, which of course made the Austin establishment about as nervous as an alley cat on a hot tin roof. You see, Mitch Little is what happens when you combine legal IQ, conservative backbone, and the kind of don't mess with me attitude that makes lobbyists call in sick and question everything they believe in. He doesn't just vote the right way, he understands why it matters. He's not in politics to be liked, he's in it to win. And by win, I don't mean steakhouse handshakes and meaningless awards from the Texas Association of Who the Hell Cares. I mean actual victories for taxpayers, for parents, and for people who don't think boys can be girls just because they bought new pronouns on Amazon. Now, I know what you're thinking. Shiloh, that sounds dangerous. What if the Democrats don't like him? Well, friends, that's kind of the point. You see, Mitch didn't show up to find common ground with people trying to turn Texas into Portland. He showed up with a shovel to dig a political grave for every bad idea that crawled out of the progressive petri dish. And let's be honest, the Texas House could use a few more Mitch Littles and a few less "I'm a Republican, but" types. You know the ones. They campaign like Reagan and govern like Newsom. We see you. We hear your press releases. We're not impressed. When Mitch Little showed up in Austin, he didn't bring a white flag. He brought a red pen, a legal pad, and a long list of lies he planned to dismantle. While most of these politicians are out here kissing rings and taking selfies, Mitch is cross-examining bureaucrats like it's closing arguments and making them wish they'd gone into real estate instead of politics. He's not trying to reach across the aisle. He's trying to rip the rot out at its roots. And for once, the good guys came armed with more than just talking points. So stick around, because up next, we're talking to the man who went from defending Ken Paxton to defending all of Texas from its own legislature. He's not here to cut ribbons or pose for portraits. He's here to break the machine. Many people are wondering if he's going to run for Texas Attorney General, and tonight, we're going to ask him. This is Texas Talkin', and State Representative Mitch Little joins me next. Sit tight. And joining me now is one of the sharpest legal and political minds in the Texas legislature, State Representative Mitch Little. Mitch, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. You're too kind. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Well, your story is truly one of remarkable success, right? You brilliantly defended Ken Paxton during his impeachment trial. You then ran for state representative and won. And then this year, being your freshman year, you were awarded Freshman of the Year. So congratulations.
Thanks so much. I'm kind of Forrest Gumping my way through this whole thing. So it's nice that people are noticing, and it's nice to be honored in that way. I'm new to politics, but I'm learning a lot as fast as I can.
Well, let's not bury the lead too much. There are people all over Texas who want to know the answer to this question. Are you running for Texas Attorney General?
I'll tell you the same thing I tell everybody else. I haven't made a decision yet. I'm not sure. So the the thing that I've got going right now is I came back from the session and I've been basically in and out of court every single day. I was in court on two different cases today, and now I've got to go back for a special session. So there's there to think about starting July 21st. So I'm considering it. Let's just put it that way.
So still considering, when do you think you'll have a decision?
Yeah, I think really whenever the Lord tells me to stop waiting. So either I'll decide to come back to the house or I'll make a decision to move on to try something else. We'll see.
Well, speaking of going back to the House, as you're well aware, Governor Abbott has indeed called a special session that kicks off in mid-July. I wanted to ask you, before we get to the special session agenda, what would you characterize as some of the most important, significant legislative wins of this past session?
Oh gosh, yeah, there were quite a few. There are not as many as we needed, but there were quite a few. The bail reform package is something that I got to spend a lot of time working on, trying to make sure that we keep dangerous people off the streets who've been charged with the most violent and heinous sexual offenses. We didn't get all of the bail package passed that I would have liked to have passed, but it's going to make a significant difference in places like Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, Austin. We were fortunately able to pass SB 17 in a very strong form of that, banning foreign hostile land ownership by China, Iran, Russia, North Korea. So that was exciting. The Parental Bill of Rights, SB 12, was a significant achievement, taking the gender identity and sexual orientation based clubs out of schools, ending social transitioning for kids in Texas public schools.
Amen.
These are significant milestones. It's just that we didn't tackle everything that we needed to tackle, although I think we did make some serious progress, certainly with school choice and some other things too.
I couldn't agree more. And I read on your Substack a very well-written piece that you put up about the accomplishments and then also some of the things left undone, so to speak. And first among those on the list that I want to ask you about is SB3 and THC regulation, right? There's this uproar out there about it. The governor, of course, vetoed SB3. As a general statement, my gut tells me that it's probably not a good thing to encourage or otherwise promote a state of intoxication in among the public. That being stated, it appears that in the minds of many people, and certainly the governor, SB3 was poorly written. What are your thoughts on THC regulation and addressing that in this upcoming special session?
I don't think it was poorly written. I think you have this Hobson's choice between allowing the hemp-based THC industry to grow and blossom in Texas, as it were, and then you have the option of growing government through regulation of that industry. So I'm not in favor of this continued expansion of the hemp industry and THC industry in Texas.
Neither am I.
This morning, I was going to get my wife's tire fixed down Hebron Boulevard in Louisville, and there were opposing, I'll call it hemp stores on opposite sides of the street. One was like vape oriented. And it was advertising Delta 9, et cetera. And on the other side, there was literally a cannabis bud with like the green medical symbol inside of it. So like they are just ready for this thing to take off. And
oh, yeah.
In some ways, regulation enables the thing to take off. So it gives it the stamp of legitimacy of the government to regulate it. And so I don't think this is a good thing for Texas. It has not been a good thing for the youth of Texas. THC-induced psychotic disorder is a very real thing. Ask some of the families that have been impacted by it. So also, I am extremely confident that a lot of the online narrative concerning this topic is being driven by paid bots. Like I can see it. I can see it, the pattern of it on every representative's thread. They're pounding this. And for the people that listen to your podcast, you need to understand that the reality in politics in 2025 is the public narrative is in many ways illegitimized by AI in the presence of bots that are creating public opinion for you. So the question we have to ask is this the right thing to do, regardless of the the kind of noise that we see online about it?
So, how do you think THC should be regulated in Texas?
I really don't think it should be regulated. I don't think it should exist as an industry in Texas. Um, it's funny that like the more libertarian wing of the Republican Party is like, oh, they're adults, let them do it. Um, I heard one representative yesterday call this a move toward banning THC is a move toward a California style nanny state. I'm like, bro, California has legal weed. California has legal weed.
Yes.
Like being a nanny state on this topic is not their problem. Their problem is the licentious way in which they deal with something that is really hazardous to young people.
A societal problem. Let's just call it what it is.
It is. And I had legal cases in Colorado right after they legitimized or legalized marijuana in the state. And for anybody that tells you it's not addictive, they're very obviously lying. Like it had a macroeconomic effect on the state as soon as it was legalized. And so the proponents of this thing want to use it to grow government. That's my belief. The Democrats want to use it to tax it, regulate it, tax it to grow government programs. And that's just not what I'm signed up for.
Well, I appreciate that very much. And speaking of growing government, we've seen efforts to eliminate taxpayer-funded lobbying. That is something that is supposed to be addressed in this next special session. What needs to happen in order for us to get taxpayer money out of the hands of lobbyists who are, in fact, fighting against our interests?
Yeah, we just need to straight up ban it. So you're probably aware of what happened. And I'm sorry if I can't remember the number. For some reason, I think it was SB 19, is Mays Middleton's bill.
That sounds right.
I'm sorry if I'm butchering it, but it's Mays Middleton's bill. It came over the House. It died in state affairs. And I think Republicans get distracted by the fact that TASA and TASB, so Texas Association of School Administrators, Texas Association of School Boards, when we say taxpayer-funded lobbying, people immediately think, what's the school districts? They're spending our money to lobby against us. In reality, that is a small fraction of the taxpayer-funded lobbying megaplex that exists in Texas. And we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars of business that's going to these lobbyists. They're spending our money against us, using it to grow government. Why? What's the point? The problem is they're so powerful. Taxpayer-funded lobbyists in Texas are very powerful, and they were effective at killing the bill in state affairs.
How confident are you that it's something we can ban in this next session?
Well, if we're doing it in a special session, one, the main problem is, can you get the Democrats to show up? Okay. So let's say that you mount that obstacle and you've got the Democrats to show up. Now there's nowhere to hide. Like, you can't blame the failure of a taxpayer-funded lobbying ban on we were too busy, we ran out of time. Right. Yeah, like that's not a thing in a special session. So if the governor puts it on the call, it should lead to the obvious success of that bill. I mean, I just, because if it makes it to the floor and there's a debate and there's a vote, Republicans are going to have an extremely difficult time voting against that.
Yes, sir. So the issue that I believe is on the minds of most Texans, certainly Texas Republicans, that's of great concern is how we take care of this burdensome property tax that's placed on the backs of so many Texans. I know you have many thoughts on how we address this problem, but if you could give us a brief synopsis on the best way to tackle this issue.
Yeah, well, Shiloh, you may or may not have seen today in the news, there was something really discouraging that came out that basically projected Texas's revenues to plateau and suggesting that there is not going to be this massive surplus available in the future to fund additional property tax relief. And so it begs the question, where do we go from here? We're not going to have state money to subsidize the ongoing growth of the property tax system throughout the state. So how do you fix it? One, you have to turn off the faucet. So what I mean is you have to be able to, as a state, restrict the ability of local taxing jurisdictions to grow their revenue base. So if that means requiring a supermajority vote in order to increase your tax rates beyond the no new revenue rate, that's one tool. Another tool is limiting the ability of school districts to continuously borrow. All right. So another piece of this is the school districts are holding voter approved tax rate elections, which are driving our tax rates to the roof. They are borrowing money as fast as they can to build stadiums, facilities, et cetera, ongoing improvements to, what I'll call the or ongoing capital improvements to the school district. So they borrow, they increase their tax rate. And so the way I've described this problem is the state or the legislature is bailing one bucket of water out of the front of the boat while local jurisdictions are dumping two in the back of the boat. So we have to restrict the spending aspect of this. And then if you don't want to have a property tax regime, you have to find another way to replace the revenue. Okay, so one potential solution is going to a more consumption-based tax and increasing the sales tax. And the proponents and opponents of that have very different views. The opponents say, well, this is a
regressive tax.
It's regressive. It's the poor bear the brunt of that. I don't know whether that's actually a fair criticism. I mean, we're all paying sales tax. So the question is, are we going to move the money from the left pocket to the right pocket, the property tax regime to a sales tax regime? The other problem is, there's a lot of real estate based businesses that won't need to pay a sales tax for anything ever. You're owning a piece of raw land and you're paying property tax on it. You're not paying sales tax on your insurance. So, sure. I mean, it's just shifting the burden from some parties to other parties. And the thing that we need to see, Shiloh, is we need to see people who are committed to actually having the conversation about solving the problem instead of just throwing a few extra bucks from the budget at it each year. Yes. Because it's not having the intended effect.
No,
like my bill's not going down. My bill's going up. I'm sure yours is too.
Sure. So. Exactly. That's the case with so many people. In fact, I would venture to say most people.
Yeah. If you are on an over 65 exemption and your appraised value is locked at some point in time, you're experiencing the relief from the legislature because your value is locked. The rest of us, what's happening is the legislature is increasing the exemption. Appraisal district increases the value. Increase the exemption, increase the value.
Yeah.
And so
it's almost like a shell game.
Well, it's becoming more and more expensive at a state level just to keep your property taxes the same.
Yeah. Yep.
So major problematic.
Where can people go if they want to subscribe to your Substack? You write some very good pieces.
Yeah, I try to. How do you navigate Substack? Just open up Substack and enter in Mitch Little. My piece of the little internet will pop up there too, or you can find those articles generally reprinted in some sense at mitchlittlefortexas.com.
And posted on X, on your very active X account.
Yeah, I try to. So my X is at Real Mitch Little. I try to post most of my articles through X before and then copy them over to Substack so that people generally don't go to the same format for their news. So I just try to put it in different channels so people can experience it.
Well, Representative Little, I very much appreciate you taking some time to speak with us tonight, sir. May God bless you and may God continue to bless the great state of Texas. Thank you for helping us keep Texas talking.
Amen to that. God bless you, brother.
You too. Stay dialed in to interviews and content just like this by clicking that follow button on my Facebook page, or hit the subscribe button to learn more about exclusive access that you won't want to miss.